David had a core group of generals they known as the mighty men. It's about 30 of them. These men were already very accomplished warriors. He brought them together to be one team, one band, one sound. And to me, it was just so intriguing that imagine if we could build a team in today's world that had the characteristics of David's mighty men organization.
Hey, welcome to our Today for Tomorrow podcast. Now look, we're minus Martell. I don't think Martell ever missed a podcast. This might be the first one. So anyway, we're gonna go through this. It won't be the same, but with Mike and I gonna hold up the banner and go forward. Now Mike, you and I have been talking about some stuff, man, and God's put a particular individual in the Bible on your spirit. And we talked about him before, but I want you to frame out today's discussion because you shed some light on it in a way that I hadn't thought about it before. So why don't you frame it out for us?
Yeah, so, every day I go through my studies and, I'm intentionally spending time with God. I'm getting to know God more. He's getting to know me. He's downloading more information. And I thought I was out of the David series, right? So we segued until when David's last days, he's passing the throne to Solomon, his son. And one thing that really jumped out at me, and it kind of correlated with where I was at as far as just in life and business, David had a core group of generals that they known as like the mighty men. It's about 30 of them. And a few of his soldiers were so loyal to David that when Solomon began his reign, they pledged their loyalty to Solomon. And they immediately started taking care of business. Like, matter of fact, David instructed him they had to take somebody out. Like soon as Solomon, because he had to make sure that his reign was, it wasn't any other people trying to get that crown. And when I thought about that, I was in the middle of creating expounding upon the org chart for my business, my real estate. And as I'm expounding on these positions that some I have filled, but some I don't. And I'm putting it on paper. I'm writing the vision. I'm making a plan. I'm putting it out, and I'm going through all the characteristics that I want to backfill into this org chart. Like, all right, what creates this position? How does this position outline? And the thing that I kept ruminating on and interweaving was, imagine if we could build a team in today's world that had the characteristics of David's mighty men organization. And the reason why I'm saying imagine is because all of these men were generals. These men were already very accomplished warriors when they found that. It wasn't like he created them to be warriors, but he brought them together to be one team, one band, one sound. And to me, it was just so intriguing that I'm like, man, I thought I left the David series, but it brought me right back. And I started talking to the fellas about it. So we like, look, let's break it down.
Yeah, but the thing about coming back to it, this is one thing about, talk about the word for a minute. They call it the living word for a reason. Because you done read the story of David many times. I done read it many times. And then that whole piece about the 30 men, I had never really focused on that like that. But that just shows you how you can get something more out of it. But the concept though, let's think about that. David was a man of God. They saw that and knew that, right?
Yep.
So that gave him what I'll call the platform, at least, to kind of start from. And they didn't just follow him because he was just, okay, we know, about God, we follow. David had to be a certain type of leader.
100%.
To put those type of men around them, because that's the piece that comes to mind too. They were all valued. They were all mighty in their own right, like you said. So David had to be confident enough in who he was and who God called him to be, to have those type of individuals around him, because you and I both know, your situation sometimes, you got a leader and the leader get a little insecure because some other individuals got some leadership characteristics. And that leader, that's a weakness in a leader. Instead of identifying those characteristics and identifying who's on the team and allowing them to flourish in their leadership role, I think that's key to building those 30 men.
No, absolutely. And it's funny because I have a good friend and a business partner, Evan, and he was in the Air Force before he got into real estate. And we were talking one day and he was explaining to me the concept of a cadre.
Okay.
And it was a term that I wasn't familiar with, but it's basically where you're a leader of elite individuals and you bring them together for one common cause.
Yeah.
And anytime I think of a team organization, that's truly what I envision. Like, I don't want to be a leader of sheep, you know, and I don't even have to be the leader. I don't even want to be a part of an organization where it's made up of sheep. I want everybody to operate as generals and understand that they have full capacity. They have my full confidence, my full trust. But then when we come together, it's one band, one sound.
Yeah.
And to me, to your point, this is often easier said than done because there's usually very strong characteristics in individuals that make them leaders in their own right.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you get leaders in a room, if they don't fully submit to the chain of command, it's going to be clashes among the pack.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you know, we're men, you know, we have animalistic instinct. It's primal. They do it in a wild wolf pack. They got to figure out who's the strongest, who's the best leader.
Oh, Silverback Gorillas.
Silverback Gorillas. Who you don't just get that title just by raising your hand and saying, I want to be the guy. Like, you got to earn it. You got to put in that work, and we got to know that you can handle this. So going back to David and the Mighty Men, it's just, to me, when we talk about the ultimate playbook, the proof is right there. We just got to lay it out and figure out how we can take the biblical concepts and just plug them into today's world.
You know what? We talked about this before, but we talked about it more like with Jesus when he poured into the 12. But what you're talking about is a whole precursor in the Old Testament to that, where David kind of set the model up in a different way. But you know, that to me, that plan works in business.
Yep.
It works in life because. And when you think about the best leaders, they got strong individuals around them. We always talk about sports. So, and they always talk about coaching trees, right? So who are some of the best coaches? They have the best position coaches.
Yep.
OCs, defensive coordinator. And then what happened? Their strengths show up, they wind up being head coaches somewhere else.
Yeah.
So you gotta want to have people, to your point, those generals. You don't want, and I love what you say, you don't want sheep. And unfortunately, man, I mean, and this is me coming out a little bit too, you got a lot of people that they do want sheep because they want somebody that's gonna do what they say without questioning it. They want somebody that's gonna follow them blindly. But they're the only person that got a voice though. Right. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Only their ideas count.
Yeah. I like that coaching concept that you laid out. And I thought about Nick Saban on the college level and Bill Belichick on the NFL level. Yeah. And so Nick Saban, for example, he had a very fiery personality. He was an extremist on the process. Like, he completely does not allow his players to talk about the scoreboard at all. It could be fourth quarter, they could have been up by 50 points, and it's still a focus on, did we run this play right this time? And if we didn't, I'm coaching you up and I'm coaching you hard. But to your point, it's the people that you position around you, because when you have these coordinators and these position coaches, they spend the most time with their actual players. Like, the linebacker coach is going to meet with his linebackers. The defensive back coach is going to meet with his DBs. Yeah. As the ultimate coach, you have to meet with the people that you put in place, and you got to talk and understand, all right, what are we seeing out there? What obstacles do we have? What can I remove from you so that you guys can keep being boots on the ground and keeping this well-oiled machine running?
Yeah, yeah, because the thing about it is that wherever, you know this too, and I know, wherever you got a weakness on your team, you got to fill in the gap.
Yep.
Or either you got to keep checking them. And that takes time out of what you need to do.
Yeah.
And that's the part that always puzzled me, is like, why do you want weak people around you? That's just more work on you. you can't grow. You don't grow as a group. And, when you talk about the 30 man mighty, I mean, I think you need to come up with a shirt with that because that's a mantra.
It is.
It is a mantra. And I think when you look at David, the word don't tell us, but there had to be the vetting process. He had a lot more men around him.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he had to vet out.
He had hundreds.
Yeah,
it was hundreds.
Yeah,
if not thousands.
Thousands, exactly. Yeah. So he had to vet them out. He had to be like, and same thing. We going through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You vetting people out. You got to, because you got to give people a chance, but then you got to trust what you see.
Trust what you see. And this is one of the biggest things I'll tell anyone, but especially young men. Your name precedes you. Your reputation precedes you. You are an accumulation of your daily steps. People are always watching, especially men. Mm-hmm. When we did an episode a while back about why Black men don't want to go to church. Mm-hmm. A big thing was some of these false prophets that are in the pastoral role. Mm-hmm. One of the things that they do is they didn't want to have a lot of men in leadership positions because they know men, when we see chinks in other men's armor, we can't just walk around. If you a certain type of man, it's gonna bother you to the point where you gotta address it, you gotta figure it out, or we gotta resolve it. And sometimes you gotta part ways. You gotta go, you know what, this is your thing, but I'm not with it. Yeah. I gotta go my own way. Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing that I wanna highlight is that vetting process is so critical. And you literally just have to sit back and let people be who they are. Mm-hmm. I think one of the traps that a lot of people fall into is they think they've identified somebody for a specific role and they want to fit them into that role and convince them why this role is good for them. Yeah. Versus saying, you know what, maybe we still got to figure out what your strengths are, but I got 3 or 4 other people that they're showing me they can fill that spot. And maybe let's plug them in because they're already ready and willing to do it.
Yeah, don't force fit something. Yeah, and that's crucial because, once again, going back to David's 30, out of those men, they each had different strengths. They had to. Some might have been more strategy. Yep. Some might have been more in battle. Who knows? But to the point you make it, then that is a tendency. You take somebody, they could be gifted. They could be a leader, but you put them in a position to lead where it's not their strength.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then going back to the coaching analogy again, too. I remember when Bill Belichick took his defensive coordinator, Patricia, and made him offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. And it was a disaster. You know what I'm saying?
It wasn't a skill set.
It wasn't a skill set. Now, the guy was super intelligent for what they say, although I don't know about the Lions fans to say that when he coached the Lions. I saw it. But from a defensive coordinator standpoint, he was solid.
Yeah. But in that role. That's a great example because you would, you could assume, all right, well, he's a good defensive coordinator. He's been doing this for S amount of years. Mm-hmm. He's ready to go be a head coach.
Yeah.
Like you said, Lions fans, we know that did not work out well when we had Matt Patricia as the head coach because that it wasn't his skill set. Being a head coach is much different than being a defensive coordinator.
Exactly.
And it ain't for everybody, just being 100%. This is why it's so critical to understand roles and responsibilities so that we're not stepping on each other's toes. And on the flip side, we don't have any glaring gaps or holes that are just not being filled.
Yeah, because you talk about general. So, because people say, well, hey, you said all these generals, they leaders. Yeah, they are leaders, but they leading certain segments.
Yep.
So, but they're not ready to be David. Mm-hmm. They're not prepared for that role, not cut for that role.
It's funny because I was about to say something that's a great segue where any good leader, before you are promoted to a leadership position, because really you shouldn't self-promote into a leader. No. The team as a collective to say, you know what, this person has XYZ character traits, we feel this is the best fit. Any leader has to be willing to serve before they're going to be an effective leader. Yeah. And unlike what most people think, where, you leader, you just get to do this, that, and whatever, to be honest, leadership is constant serving.
It is. It's you have the best leaders are serving. And going back to Christ, hey, he came to serve. And that's what he stated. Best leader you're gonna find. David, in a lot of ways, served. I mean, you think about that.
God the whole time.
He was serving God.
Yeah.
But going back before he got caught, he was a shepherd, right? So he looked after the sheep. He was a musician.
Yeah.
When Saul would have his moments, he needed David to play for him.
Yeah.
You know, so David was a servant. And David was, you know, a different dude from the standpoint that he would do stuff that they were like, man, why are you out dancing? Why are you doing it? I mean, that's the thing that I think people miss about David. You've picked it up. And I think people miss about the Bible in general, and you and I've talked about this before, I think we need to bring this out too, is that people think there's wimps in the Bible. Mm-hmm. And to be a Christian is a sign of weakness. But when you talk about David, you talk about these different individuals, you talk about real men.
Man, some of
warriors.
Warriors. That's a great word. And if it was wimps in the Bible, we not reading about it.
We're not.
They didn't make it. They didn't make the cut. Just being honest, because for you to accomplish amazing things, you have to be courageous. You have to be willing to go against the grain. You have to be willing to be bold. You know, these are terms that we read in the Bible. These are our command from God. Mm-hmm. David, when he was doing these great feats, even in his leadership role, he was doing it for the glory of God. Mm-hmm. Now, we're not saying that he was perfect, because he did have his human moments, which we've talked about on other episodes, but we're focusing on the greater goal of ultimately just serving God. Yeah. Serving something above ourselves.
Yeah, because it has to be about God. When it's about us, it's all about selfishness then, right? And that's when pride started to creep in. And that's the other thing too, man, and it's worth hitting on that. As great as David was as a leader, he wasn't perfect. We know that, okay? We know some of the hiccups he had. But as we lead, we got to be careful, because that pride piece can creep in. You can start to lose sight of the purpose. Like, hey, who am I serving? No, if serving God, then it need to be about God. But if it's about me and about, well, wait a minute, so-and-so disrespected me, or so-and-so didn't do this or whatever, then it becomes about us, individually. And I think with success, that's one of those things that can come along with it. And I mean, this is why you got to have good brothers around you, like you and Martell, different people to tell you the truth, and keep you grounded, but at the same time encourage you. But I trust you to tell me, right? What did you mean? I mean, in a cool, brotherly way, man. I just want to let you know this kind of came across like this. I want to make sure I ain't reading you wrong. You know what I'm saying? We got to check each other in that respect.
I just told y'all was terrible texts. I sent them a text message about a series I'm reading about, or I was watching about David and the Mighty Men. I got radio silence. I'm like, man, what's up with y'all? I'm saying it in a joking manner, but
it's the truth, though.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, I gotta call it like I see it. But it's all, so we've covered a lot of ground in this episode, and we kind of getting towards that time. And so if we could give the people maybe one thing that you really want to kind of circle back as a focus point or a takeaway from this episode, what would it be from you?
For me, it's like, watch who you put around you. Mm. And if you are a leader, definitely be careful who you choose to be in your circle, and understand you do need some strong leaders around you. And if you're not a leader, because everybody's not a leader in the same way, make sure you following somebody who have true leadership tendencies.
Yep. The one takeaway that I would give everybody is...
I gave two, didn't I?
That's good. It's good stuff, though. Is before you try to just jump into these leadership roles, be willing to serve and learn every little piece of the dynamic that you need to learn at the phase that you're at right now. In other words, be where your feet are. Just be right here in this moment, because tomorrow you're going to have a whole nother set of lessons that you're going to need to retain. And if you're thinking about tomorrow right now, then you're gonna possibly miss these moments.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go ahead and give another one too.
All right,
Another one I wanna say is when you're reading the Bible, these different stories, be willing to think outside of the box. Like let the Spirit drive you, but this conversation kind of derived because, I'm being intentional about showing up to study the Bible. And I feel like God downloaded this into my heart and my spirit where I'm reading a story about the biblical battles and the warriors in the actual battlefield, but I applied the same principles to business in today's world that I'm dealing with, building out my organizational chart, adding teammates to the team. And of course, we're not, literally fighting battles against other people in today's world, but we are fighting battles in the business world every day that we need these type of skill sets.
No, and I would even go further than that. So we fight spiritual battles.
That's true.
Yeah, because in business and all that, you're dealing with individuals who have different mindsets and thoughts, and you're dealing with some negative energy sometimes, or spirits, and you're dealing with some that are positive. You got to distinguish between them. So, hey, look, I know we got a roll. So, hey, let's, this is a little short episode today, but the meat is all there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, with that, you want to tell the people a little bit about what you got going on Instagram?
Yeah, come check us out on Instagram at DetroitInvestor_WCI. I try to sprinkle little tidbits, kind of provide a roadmap on what we do as far as real estate, fatherhood, mentorship, podcast clips. So come check it out.
All right. Hey, look. And I'm inviting you out to come check us out on Sundays. We have in-person service for Freedom of Christ Ministry at 28202 Franklin Road, 11:30 a.m. every Sunday morning. Come check us out in the Southfield area. And also we have Men 2.0, group of brothers coming together, understanding what God's plan is for us. That happens at the same place on the second Saturday of the month at 10 a.m. So with that, hey, we out, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Peace.